on that note, thank you so much, Nis. I'd like to welcome and introduce everyone to Jessa Lewis, I believe, and just want you to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what we might not have covered so far in introducing you.
So I am a single parent here in Washington State working in the emerging cannabis industry, and I definitely resonated with Bernie's platform as far as single payer healthcare. Let's end this war on drugs that makes no sense and incarcerates people unfairly, and that those are some of my main talking points that I'm very passionate about.
Excellent. All right. And so one of the things that's come up, I know I wanted to talk. I know a lot of people are wondering, with in the news recently, there was Bernie coming out with a rally with Hillary, and he said some things, and then there was a call after that, and there's been people were a bit frantic and a bit concerned, and there's a lot of just different reactions. So I wondered if there was any clarity that you could provide us from your position in the Washington delegation.
One of the main things to pay attention to is he did not concede. He still is considered an active campaigner. Our delegates, we are not released, and so we are still held and pledged to vote for him. One of the things that he was able to achieve, which was something I was not expecting, was a roll call vote. Means that all of our votes are going to be counted, and will be publicly known how many people are for Bernie Sanders. Now, what some of the tactics are and things they're looking at doing after that, we don't know. And for some of it is just purely how do we prepare for something that we don't know, and at the same time, how do we not leak? And we don't know all of the conversations and things that were happening in the back room. Maybe it was purely there wasn't enough superdelegate votes at this point, and he didn't want to lose the platform. We know that the platform votes were being held over his head. And I know a lot of people worked on the platform personally, and they did not want all the work that they did to be, discarded. I don't know more other than that, other than we've just been asked to go into Philly to vote for him, to hold strong, and also to remember that it was never about the presidency. It was about starting a revolution. It was about getting people engaged. And that needs to be our focus, is helping to support the other candidates down the ticket, running for office yourself, getting fully engaged. That's where I think things are really going to start changing. It's not just about a presidency.
I think that's an important point about how it's always been about much more than just a single political position or a single election cycle, and that Bernie has done a great job of trying to stress that as much as possible. And I think a lot of people were just taken off guard in general by the how things proceeded and which the speed in which they happened and how much information was disseminated beforehand. I know some of the questions, and I don't want to harp too much on it, but some of the questions that people have been raising was, is there anything can we read anything out of him not filing a minority report at this point? And is there anything that to the allegations or any substantiation to the allegations that basically he was like you mentioned somewhat to that it might have been he was in such a position where he had to do what he did in order to maintain the ability to push the platform forward. And why does that matter for folks? I think is an important thing for people. Why does it matter? A lot of people say the platform isn't binding, so help us understand why it matters to get that roll call vote, to have as many Bernie delegates there as possible to make sure that their votes are counted.
Well, and I mean, if let's say something comes up in the next 2 weeks, he has set himself up that he played by the rules, that he still is an active campaign, and if something does happen to the other candidacy, then he is perfectly in position to have a convention for a battle. We don't know. Also, having a roll call vote, having it be obvious how many people actually support him, that is so valuable, even maybe more valuable than having a minority report read. We were fully expecting there to be some sort of acclamation vote, a voice vote versus an actual roll call vote. So having that roll call was a surprise, and definitely I think something worth being there and showing up and for saying, yes, we're here, we're not going anywhere. you need to deal with us. We're ready for these issues to be handled. And as far as the platform question that you brought up, the platform is the guidebook. This is our goal, this is what the party stands for, this is what we're going to be fighting for over the next 4 years. And yes, it is symbolic, but that's why it is important to fight so hard. We don't need to start having the negotiations and settle before we even start the fight. And that is what the Bernie delegates who are part of the platform process were calling for, was saying, let's be bold, let's be brave, let's start here instead of here. And I would love to see that platform really be adhered to, because so much sweat and tears went into that, and that was not a pleasant process, and it was a battle pretty much the entire time, and it was very contentious. And I just want to say, everyone that I know, especially Werner and Deborah, who worked on the platform, I love them and what they're able to accomplish.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into both behind the scenes at the national level and the local level and a variety of other levels, and I think a lot of people don't get as much recognition or credit as they deserve for the long hours that they really put in order to make these things happen. And if you start attending these types of things, you'll see the type of work that's involved, and I think that it's important for people to understand that if we're going to be realistic about what I think is the next steps that we're talking about, which is engaging at the grassroots level, at all levels of government, and getting people, like you said, running for office. And if you could elaborate a little bit more about what you're familiar with that's going on as far as Washington and moving forward on those fronts.
Of course, we have several campaigns. I mean, one of the first people that Bernie endorsed was Pramila, and I've been actively supporting and trying to get out there as much as I can for that campaign, because that is an important one for us to win. And the more that we can get into office that have been tagged as that style of progressive, like a populist progressive, is going to send a clear signal to where we want things to continue. And there can be a coalition government that can be formed on the left that is more inclusive and more open. And Bernie's campaign, and even on that call that he had with us that night, he said it's his goal to have at least 100 candidates next year that are being supported by this amazing grassroots movement that is building. That was the thing in 2008. I was a part of the coordinated campaign for Obama and Gregoire here in Washington State. And there was so much grassroots efforts that went into that election, and then as soon as he was in office, it was nowhere. It was gone. So all those relationships, all that work, all that learning didn't go anywhere. And I really believe that Bernie's plan to actually keep that grassroots movement in effect, and to start everywhere from, city councils, school boards, you name it, all the way on up, that's where people get trained, and that's where in 4 years you're going to see people who are battle tested and have proven themselves and are going to be actually competitive on the national stage and changing things from all levels.
That's what I like to hear, and I know hopefully we'll be able to stay in communication in the future, and we'll be able to be on the convention and talk about how those things are progressing and what are some of the roadblocks that we're finding and what are some of the successes that we're really proud of as far as locally, and then with working with other groups. I'm going to go ahead and give Nis an opportunity to ask you any questions I might have missed or just anything that might have come up between. So Nis?
Yeah, hi Jessa. I would be very interested in hearing about your thoughts on whether or not somehow a miracle can be pulled out and Bernie Sanders gets the nomination anyway.
So we are, as a delegation, preparing for any scenario as much as we can. Of course, at this point, the campaign is staffed quite leanly, so it's all a grassroots organization at this point. Outside of that, I can't tell you much, but we are preparing the communication and making sure that if something happens, if something comes up, that we're going to be ready to go, because it is important to have a candidate that excites people and that will get people turning up. I mean, that is one of the biggest concerns about having a candidate with such high and favorable ratings, is that people won't show up to vote, and that hurts local elections, and that hurts communities. And we want to have, no matter what happens, we want to make sure that these down ballot races have the votes that are needed, because this is what really impacts communities. And yeah, I think we're in a good spot if an opportunity opens up.
Okay, so I have heard that some people have said, okay, I'm not going to Philadelphia as a delegate. It's not worth it. I'm not going to spend the money or the time because Bernie threw in the towel. Um, Now, I'd like for you to start by addressing on what your thoughts are on Bernie throwing in the towel because he had a call with the delegates the same day that I assumed you were a part of.
Yes.
I would also like to hear what you're doing about delegates leaving, and yeah, thank you.
So as far as Bernie throwing in the towel, how can you when it was never about just becoming elected as president? It was about starting a revolution. It was about creating a network of people who are educated and now trained and understand the grassroots process and how do you really engage. So on that respect, he hasn't gone anywhere. We have no idea what sort of tactical moves. If it was just the reality of like this is a situation, I'm not going to be able to get over this hump. Um, and if that's the case, then I just want to say like he fought so hard, and everyone else fought, and it is something that we need to be proud of. Like this was never expected to be easy, and we were never expected to get as far as we did. And the records that were broken are something to be noticed and definitely celebrated. As far as people not showing up, I just want to say you were elected by your communities. He has asked you to be there. People put their trust in you and their faith in you, and I hold sacred all the people who voted in the process to get me where I am today, and I will show up there and nothing will stop me. And it's not over, and I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, so I've heard that some of these people who are now being subbed in for the people who are rotating out, that emergency funding is going on to try and raise money to enable these people who doesn't necessarily have the hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars required to go to Philadelphia. So what would your pitch be to someone like the pitch of, hey, fund these people so that we can make Bernie president? That's a pretty great pitch. But as evident from our chat, a lot of people are looking at this party platform as toilet paper, basically. So what would your pitch be to get people to help fund these people to get to Philadelphia?
Well, one of the biggest things is that we did make quite a substantial amount of progress, and the most important thing to do is to show up. And they are not going to listen to us if they think we're just going to take our toys and go home. And we have to be present on the street and on inside that convention hall saying this is what we demand, this is what we're fighting for. And like how silly would you feel if you missed out on the opportunity to actually be a part of something big? And we have no idea what to expect when we're there. I've been at a convention before on the outside as a guest, and I was able to get inside some of the events with guest credentials. But I think that this is incredibly important that people see how important it is to show up. I mean, democracy is the people who show up. I mean, it's the people who vote, the people who knock on the doors, the people who make the local party politics happen. Those are the people who actually push a platform and push the direction and decide who gets endorsed, who gets the party's resources. So as far as funding delegates who are showing up, I mean, I'm taking an unpaid week off of work. I'm leaving my daughter, and this is not anything that's easy. That's why Vice News is doing a report on it. Local news reports are showing how much of an economic impact actually going to Philadelphia is. The hotel rooms are $350 to $700 a night. The plane tickets at this point are over $1,000. Food, everything else that you can think of are going to be incredibly expensive, and this is not a fun little vacation. We are going to be working from 7 in the morning till 11:30 p.m. at night, and there's not going to be sleep. It's going to be a push, and from everyone who are outside on the streets, the people inside the convention hall, we're showing up to say, hear our voices. This is what's important to us. And if you can't go, or even if you can and have anything extra, please chip in to any of the crowdfunding campaigns or check in with your local party saying who needs the funding to go, because democracy is who shows up, and we've got to show up.
Okay, so just to bring things into perspective for people, for our audience, after the U.S. Revolution, there was a French Revolution. Now, the French Revolution started very famously by the king calling the different stratas of society together for a parliament to help fund their deficit. And the citizenry were starving, and the citizens who were going to this convention were actually called out as traitors because they would just blue ribbon, they were just okay whatever the rich needed and wanted, and the citizenry would not get anything. This actually started to happen, so the citizenry walked out of the parliament, bringing with them many clergymen whose conscience could not support what was happening, and a few nobles. And as their gathering grew and the newspaper supported them and the people in the street supported them, more and more people had to go to this People's Convention, the Parliament of the Tennis Court, which on its final day, the king himself had to go sit down in a session and sign the law that this convention had made on their terms. So I'm not saying this is going to happen at the DNC, but you never know what is going to happen. And there are thousands of people going to Philadelphia, not just to get inside the convention, but also to be outside and to influence it on any and every level. So you cannot know what will happen at this convention.
Yeah, no, and before we let Jessa go, that was one of the questions I kind of had was, is there a possibility that we end up in a situation where the Bernie delegates can recognize that they've basically been blown off and that they would act in some way to establish that, to make it clear that they were not okay with how things had transpired in some sort of public display at the convention? Perhaps a walkout.
There's been, yeah, I mean, there's been conversations, and at this point, we have no idea, and I'm not going to forecast anything. And it's one of those where hopefully the relationships and bonds that we've been building over the last couple weeks and couple months is strong enough to where we just have faith in each other, where if we get that text or something that, or if word filters down through the crowd, then we go. I really hope that the Democratic Party can see the values that were there, that this is the future of where this country is headed. I mean, how many of the young people, the 45 under, like, this is what we want. We want to join the rest of the world when it comes to affordable education and single-payer health care and social justice and everything else, and the transparency, and that we're not ready to just settle. And that it's time to join the rest of the developed world and to actually be the beacon for democracy that we claim to be.
There seems to be a theme throughout a variety of aspects of politics, government, and society where we've assumed that we've accepted a certain state of affairs, and I think throughout all of them you see a thread that people are trying to make it very clear that this is not an acceptable state of affairs, that significant changes must happen and with haste, and that we can't continue to linger on these things. And so I see it at the convention, I see it in the protests out on the freeways and in the streets of major cities, I see it in a variety of different places, whether it be the economy or the climate or a host of different issues. And I think those in power are going to have to recognize what we're saying, hopefully, and hopefully that we can pressure them in positive ways to make the positive changes that we need. So anything else you wanted to share with us, Jessa, before we move on and let you get back to the many duties you have ahead of you?
At this point, just, I know this is a cheesy quote, but, a revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having. And I think that folks are getting a little down. And the news of the last bit, everything from the shootings and the election results and direction of where things are going, not being where we want them to go. But just have heart and celebrate the beautiful people that are around you and the connections that you've made, because it is that joy and it is that deeper connection that will sustain and drive where we're trying to take things. and that it's okay to laugh and enjoy yourself a little bit, because this is going to be a long road, and that we're not going anywhere, and have those relationships and friendships there. Don't burn out, so take a moment, go enjoy nature, go enjoy your kids, and 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 smile a little bit and just be like, you know what, we got this, we're not going anywhere.
That is an excellent note to leave on, Jessa, and thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to having you back again and talking with you during the convention, and hopefully you'll be bringing us very exciting good news from the floor.